and they want to recruit you into an ideology of thinking that pharmaceuticals are bad. And on the back end, they want to monetize that fear and anxiety that you have and sell you shampoos, serums, microneedling, red light helmets, $50 a month school server, supplements that have nothing to do with hair loss at all.
This podcast is brought to you by Mane and Steel, hair for life. Welcome to the Mane and Steel podcast. Discussions on hair loss, men's health, style, confidence, and everything in between. Tim, thanks for joining me again. I appreciate this, being that you and I just sort of like met. Give everyone, the backstory that you and I were just about to go into. And I said, hey, we have to grab this for a recording, which is kind of what I always like to do, I think, is get people's backstory of when they first discover hair loss, because we all live in denial at first. Would you agree?
Totally. Oh,
and then we understand hair loss, and then we educate ourselves appropriately, and then we take necessary steps. So kind of walk us through your discovery of hair loss, which it's not hard. You look in the freaking mirror, right?
Yeah.
And then how you started to educate yourself appropriately, and then how you kind of built this little social media following. I recently, last night looked at your books and stuff, which are highly educational. I'll post those whenever I post all this stuff for everyone to get to purchase his books. They're excellent materials in addition to my own. I have a free guide and the No BS Hair Loss Blueprint, which is free. But for Tim, purchase
it's very
his
comprehensive.
Stuff. Yeah, purchase Tim's stuff. It's very good. It's kind of an outline, which is what the first book is, educating yourself on hair loss, and then, guiding someone towards a hair transplant, which we know there's things out there everywhere, but these are really good guides. So I digress. Go ahead and give me the backstory you were about to give me before I said, hey, this is gold. Let's record this.
Thanks again for having me. I would say even before the stage of denial, there is this stage of unawareness, right? So for me, like I was just telling you, I have this picture of when I'm like 22 years old in the sauna and my hair's wet and it's slicked back, and I pretty much have the same hairline that I have now. The only difference is I don't have the grays, right? And so I think most of my recession actually happened between 18 and 22. And if I look at my father, my dad, he's got like a Norwood 4. He's basically has what I have, but that's way thinner and wispier and gray. And he's 82, right? He's got a bald spot in the back, but he still has hair on his head. All of his friends in his age group are bald, right? So I think that was sort of my destiny. However, there's one thing that did change, and that's when I started on testosterone. It was 2 years ago, right? Okay. So I was about 33. Throughout my life, I'd sort of struggled with my weight and eating and exercising and stuff. And I think I hit a low point around 2 years ago. And I got my testosterone levels checked, right? And my free test was like 180 and my total was like 30. It was abysmal, it was low, right? Wow. A1C off the charts, insulin, glucose off the charts, like almost pre-diabetic. Since then, I've managed to lose about 71 pounds. I hit a low of 269, so it was like 340 when I started. Nice. So I'm about halfway through my journey. But one of the big things that I had concerns with was my hair, right? And so I work with this clinic from a big influencer, right? And I got my TRT checked and I started ordering testosterone. The first thing I said was, is TRT going to make me lose my hair? And they were like, well, I think what you should do is just shave it. And I was like, I couldn't fathom that. And I've always had kind of the same hairline. I have sort of a big forehead. It's recessed, but it's never been like a thing that I've been self-conscious about. But when he said you should just shave your head as a solution to this hormonal issue, I thought there's some kind of mismatch there, because you go to a clinic for optimization, but then they want you to accept the hormonal death of your follicles, right? Yeah. And of course, the guy who suggested it to me, he's a really nice guy and he's very knowledgeable, but he's bald. And so that's when it kind of clicked that there's these different factions of the hair loss industry, and they all have their agendas that they push. You think that they're competing, but they're really like a symbiotic ecosystem, right? Yep. It's like the bald guys, they tell you DHT is the king hormone and it's super important and that you need it and that you should just shave your head. That's the solution. You've got the PFS doomers, they're the fear mongers, right? And they're trying to recruit you into the idea that you take one finasteride pill 6 years ago and it ruined your life. Yep. That's like a real podcast that somebody did, right?
I've seen it. It's on YouTube. I've seen it. Yes.
Yeah. And
I know
so
exactly what you're talking about.
So I kind of made like this 4-faction model. I could show you this slide. But basically, they're like recruiters, right? So on the left side, you have like the alpha male recruiters, and the right side, you have the beta male. They're more like go with the flow. They're more anxiety driven, higher inhibition. And the alpha males are like lower inhibition, right? And so they basically prime you to accept the snake oil salesman pitch of like, well, it's not DHT, it's DKK1. It's not DHT, it's blood flow. Maybe it is DHT, but you should take these supplements, saw palmetto, et cetera, right? Or the hair loss industry is a scam. What you should get instead is my $400 blood flow helmet, right? That's going to massage your head and it's going to return your follicles. Or my $2,000 red laser light helmet. My background is in marketing, right? So what I realized is like, instead of looking at the science and stuff, I first kind of looked at the profit margins and like what they were spending on ads. And I quickly realized, okay, so if you can sell a laser light helmet for $1,000 to $2,000 and your cost of goods is like $50 landed, well, then that means you can spend $50 to $100 on ads to acquire a customer. And now you've got someone for life. And then they're going to rebuy the supplements and all this stuff that maximizes LTV. So when I looked at it from that perspective, and then you look at a medication that's been on the market for 30 years, right? That's super effective. It works for 98% of guys and it costs $20, $30 a month. And you have to get it from a doctor, you can see how you're going to be outcompeted by the person who can tell a bigger lie, a bigger story, and sort of use the marketing dollars to funnel it through, right?
The acquisition of finasteride is a lot harder through, like you said, LTV and CAC than it is to just sell a helmet that's $2,000 that covers 3 years of what finasteride would be. Right?
Right. Exactly.
I'm in that same process with Main and Steel. We only offer dutasteride protocols, but everything you said rings quite true with the stuff that I went through with my hair loss. So now tell me because we got some deep stuff to talk about here. Tell me your discovery of seeing your hairline and then what was the initial medication after switching, because I believe you said you're still on finasteride. What made you throw everything out the window? What was the wake up call where it's 2 a.m. and you're like, what am I doing? And you wake up in the middle of the night. And I think we've all had that. So you're like, what am I doing? And you go hardcore on research and like, wow, the fear mongering has made me lose some of my hairline. You know, you have this vision of yourself over here, but then you have the voices of people who aren't educated, aren't using science-based evidence. I'm in the medical field. I'm a doctor of physical therapy, so I have to follow a scientific method, which I try to do all the time with my patients and when offering medication. What was your, I guess, wake-up call to the scientific method that says, what am I doing here? When did that occur, and what was your first parlay, Rogaine from Costco, or was it finasteride, getting the doctor visit? How did that come about? Tell me about that.
Well, I think, as I mentioned, the first bit of hair loss that I had was between 18 and 22. I didn't notice it until age 28. So there's maybe 10 years of hair loss. And we talk about the guys who are coping with the problem, or they accept that they're losing their hair, but they're in denial of reality. They refuse to take action, right? There's a bigger group of guys that has no idea. And I look at people in my family I have 3 nephews and I could see it, but I don't want to say anything because I feel I'm like writing this hair loss ebook and I'm trying to build this brand. And so I don't want to feel like I'm pushing my agenda. I hope that maybe when they figure it out, they'll come to me and ask me for advice. But you see it at a very young age with guys as young as 18, 19, 20 years old.
That was me.
And you asked what were the first products that I used. I ordered Keeps back in 2020, but I've only been on medications for 6 months. So there was
fear. Did you have fear?
I think it was just laziness and a lack of education and urgency. Because, like I said, I've had this hairline since I was 22. The hair disappeared without me even noticing it. I didn't wake up until 28. At 28, I got into the bodybuilder community that were like estrogen cream on the scalp, right? Microneedling, rosemary, borage seed oil, peppermint, basically anything except for the solutions that actually work that are proven, right? I think later I started watching Hair Cafe, which is why I ordered that first.
Kevin Mann, shout out to Kevin.
Yeah. Oh, he's great. I learned most of what I know from him and reading some of the studies that he published with his videos. And he has such an excellent way of making a somewhat academic subject very accessible to a younger audience. So I really, really appreciate him for that. But I think the problem is the medication didn't come with education, right? It didn't come with a pamphlet or an ebook or here's what's important, here's how to understand it and think about it. And so again, fast forward 3 years, I end up on testosterone therapy. I'm not doing any hair loss meds at this time. Basically what they told me is you should just shave it, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought, that's kind of crazy, right? Like, I don't want to shave it. And so I said, well, what else can I do? They said, well, we can give you topical dutasteride. I think that that's better than doing nothing, but it was like $320 for 60 ml.
I don't know which
So,
company was selling you that. They're making really good money. I don't sell my topical for that. I actually don't recommend topicals as the first line of defense. I
yeah,
recommend oral, but
yeah,
perception is everything. So if I raise my price, maybe they'll think, oh, this topical must work better because it costs $500 a month. Let me say this to everyone, and I'll look in the camera and say this. The majority of our medication all comes from the same type of compounding pharmacies.
right.
Every medication is compounded. It doesn't just get made from Novo Nordisk or whatever these other companies are. And then it's like, hey, everyone gets it. They're all compounded. We all get our medication primarily through the same type of compounding pharmacies. There's a variety of them, but the big players, we all use a combination of a certain type of compounding through pharmacies, and they're all legit script certified and everything like that. So they're all coming from the same thing. It's just when it gets to your website, how do you want to market it? How much do you want to sell it for? I can't give away my stuff for free. I still have to make margins and meet margins. So we all kind of are relatively close. I'd say the majority of products, topicals in particular, tend to sell more. I don't want to say they're less effective. The research shows that they're never going to be as effective for one in particular reason is habit forming of topicals is why it's not as effective as oral. I'd say 95% of men who go through Main and Steel start with a topical. Within the first 6 months, they say, I don't want to take this anymore. It's too much of a hassle, the routine. And I say, let's switch over. So I see that quite often. But yes, with the topicals, you said about 350. So that's kind of where you started. And I'll give one little side note. Everyone talks about the Dalton rule. Kyle on KWRX, another great influencer, Kyle talks about this. The Dalton rule is just a starting point, 500 Daltons. That doesn't mean it's not going to penetrate the skin. The half-life of dutasteride is excellent, meaning if it's in your system, it's going to sit there and last 5 to 6 weeks. The Dalton rule is just the starting point where we start to lose its ability to permeate certain regions because of the molecular size. Now, I think the Dalton of, I think dutasteride, I'll have to check this, it's between 527, those numbers are popping in my head, 527, 627. That does not mean that it's ineffective. That just means that its ability to penetrate is starting to diminish. It doesn't mean it's zero. And some guys will say, oh, the Dalton rule, it's past it. No, it's very effective because of its half-life. So even if the Dalton rule is a little bit higher, once it's into your skin, it's going to sit there, it's going to last. And I will say another thing about topicals. A lot of guys don't understand thermodynamics, physics, permeability. A gel formulation, which we don't offer, it's very hard. I'll try to post the physics on this. A gel formulation at a hair follicle level, gel permeates up. Even though we know gravity is 9.8 millimeters per second squared downward, it doesn't matter. Its ability to go up the hair follicle, not down, is greater because there's more surface area. A liquid formula, although guys think it's messy, it's actually better because it stays flat on the skin. Yes, it goes up the hair follicle a little bit, but it's able to spread better. It's just a little bit more permeable to the skin than a gel. If you ever take a gel in your hand, can you spread a gel over your whole head of hair versus liquid? You can't. Physics doesn't allow that. So that's why we don't offer the gel, because its ability to penetrate is different. Once it hits that hair follicle, it can be absorbed upward, not downward. And this is just the law of thermodynamics and stuff. A lot more other that permeability and viscosity can go into that. There's a lot more science. Hopefully I can get a physics guy to come on or get my PharmD PhD to talk about that. That's another thing about topicals is its ability to penetrate. There's so many variables, which is why I say don't use it as a first line of defense for hair loss. There are more variables against you to a topical than just taking an oral medication. You take oral, all your hair is going to get affected appropriately. A topical, you're targeting some certain area, and there are so many factors that prevent it from being its full capacity of how it would affect your hair follicle for growth.
Yeah. I know the video that you're talking about, the KWRX, that was a great video.
Yes.
Really smart guy. And this is the point where we start to lose 80% of the audience because they're just like, what are these guys talking about?
The guys who stay are the ones who will keep their hair.
Yeah. No, totally. I totally agree. It's just because I'll talk to my friends about it and they're like, I don't know what a red light helmet is. I don't know what rosemary oil is. There's this guy at my gym. He just wears a hat, right? And I'm like, man, you should check out my book. I'll give it to you for $1. And he was like, yeah, I know. He was making excuses and stuff. And I was like, man, what's the underlying issue? He's like, oh, I'm really worried about side effects. And I was like, great. Check out chapter 7. I wrote the whole chapter about side effects and how to do a microdose and stuff. And it's like the psychology of the average guy is that they just won't accept it. Well, they accept the fact that they're losing their hair, but they won't take action on it.
The guys who take action more, and I run the stats off of my purchases, the younger generation is more adherent and they are more accepting of, I don't lose my hair, I'm starting early. So my target audience is not you're losing your hair. My target audience is keep your hair. If I could go back to when I was 18, I would be on dutasteride. And there are so many studies, and I don't talk about this quite often on my videos, but Dutasteride and finasteride, I like to say dutasteride because that's only what I offer, is an incredible medication. These medications are so incredible, it literally can stop you from losing your hair. I don't want to say forever, but a lot of doctors will misinterpret science, or they'll say the wrong things. They're like, well, we know it's only slowing hair loss. No, we don't. We don't know that. There are multiple studies showing men who do not lose their hair. Dutasteride is so effective, I don't use the word powerful. If I say this is more powerful, what's the first thing that pops in your head? Dutasteride versus finasteride. What do you think if I say it's more powerful? What happens to you? What do you psychologically think?
Side effects.
Exactly. That's why in pharmacology, we don't use the term power. We use effectiveness. And I've changed all of my wording so guys understand that, because if I say more powerful, guys will think, oh, my dick's going to fall off. I'm going to get, you know, in the comments for helping out Luke is, oh, you're castrating yourself. That's literally not what these things do. My testosterone went up 250 points on dutasteride. I am now on hormone replacement. I'm on TRT. I'm on a low dose, 70 milligrams. I'm starting slow as I go up. I'm 44, so guys will be like, oh, you're on TRT. Yeah, it feels freaking great. I don't have to take Adderall anymore to get through the 16-hour work days that I do of filming, running a business, working as a doctor. I have 3 businesses. I'm a doctor of physical therapy, I have a film podcast, and I run Main and Steel. So it helps me to feel better and be more confident. I could care less about what I look like. I already look good. I'm confident in that. I'm in great shape. It is the mental capacity and the confidence to keep moving forward to the late night to get a post completed, to get some education done, or to film a podcast like this. So many guys don't understand. It is not more powerful. Dutasteride is more effective at blocking DHT. It is not more powerful. That's not how we use pharmacology. There is Ozempic, and there's GLP-1, Wegovy, and there's tirzepatide. Why is tirzepatide selling more? It is more effective as a GLP-1 and GIP at helping prevent hunger. It makes you more satiated, right? So it is a more effective. It's not more powerful. It's more effective at what it does for stopping you from eating. And that's what people don't understand. So a lot of guys miss this, and they are so stuck in fear, like you said. And I talk to my friends. My goal is to prevent hair loss, not to allow it to happen with Main and Steel. All of my marketing is, hey, if I were your age and I were 18, and some guys will never lose their hair, even when they're on testosterone, does not mean you're going to lose your hair, because it's sensitivity to DHT. So young guys, I say this all the time, please take my unheeded advice and think, oh, this guy's, he's older, I'm younger, I'm in better shape, I'm in college. Who does he know? What do I know is experience, and I know what I would not have done. So I built my entire business based off of, do not make the mistakes I made amongst all the other mistakes I've made in life. If there's one thing I would say, don't make mistakes with your hair, because a great head of hair allows you to do so much in life. It allows you to wear different styles of your hair. It allows you to dress any way you want. And the biggest example, I say this, Brad Pitt can wear his hair and wear any outfit he wants. It doesn't matter what he's wearing. He looks good. Why? Is he big, jacked? Is he a bodybuilder? No. He has such an incredible hairline and hair that it allows him to morph into so many different characters as an actor. And when he's on the red carpet wearing baggy pants and a baggy jacket and a hat, no one cares if he's big and jacked. All they care about is this right here. And that's why I tell so many guys, your life can be dramatically different with a great head of hair. You don't have to be in the best shape of your life. Look at so many actors that are out there right now who aren't bodybuilders and jacked. They're just in sort of good looking shape. They might have somewhat of a six pack, not big jacked arms, but guess what they do have that makes them looking better than 95% of every guy who wants to be a bodybuilder or is completely jacked on TRT is they have a great head of hair, and they know that a great head of hair and good style, a good mental fortitude, walking good, standing tall, being confident is so much more powerful than bench pressing 400 pounds. I know that sounds weird, and I don't mean to call out the bodybuilding community. I just don't follow that. I love calisthenics, so it's not a call out. It's not ripping on anyone. It's just saying the power of a great hairline.
Yeah, no, it frames a handsome face. And even like I was saying, I have a big forehead, and I've always had kind of like just the same hairline, right?
Yeah.
Just the guy who told me that I should just shave it. I mean, it was so shocking. I told my barber this. He was like, what is he talking about? Like, that's crazy. Even if you don't have a ton of hair or the best hairline or super low Norwood 1, why wouldn't you want to just keep what you have? And I have friends who tell me like, man, I'll just, when I'm older, shave it. And it's like, dude, that day is going to come one day and you're not going to be happy.
Quick word from our sponsor, Main and Steel. I started this company because of my own experience with hair loss. Main and Steel is the first and only company in the US offering dutasteride-only protocols, the most effective medication we have for stopping hair loss and helping regrowth. Whether you're in your 20s, 30s, or 40s, or you just want to keep your hair, Main and Steel is built for long-term results. Trust me, it's a lot cheaper than spending thousands on hair transplants. Go to mainandsteel.com and use code HEROSHOT for 10% off your first 3-month subscription. Now, back to the show.
And so what I sometimes tell guys is like, you should just take the shaved head test and shave it now. Because
See what
like,
happens. See how you feel.
there's two things that might happen. The first is they shave their head and they're like, you know what? This looks great. This is my new look and this is the new me. And then they step into that new personality. Now I'm a bald king, right? That's great. Bald Cafe is a great resource for that. However, you might look at it and you'd be like, this looks horrible. I don't want to end up bald like that. But then that's a great gift because in 3 months, the hair's going to grow back. But one day they're going to get to that day, they're going to have to shave it, and then that's going to be their permanent look. They won't have a choice. But if you go shave it now just to see what it looks like, then you at least know what you don't want and you can start taking action on it.
And, you know, you brought up some good points. There's some very difficult things to talk about on podcasts like this or just in general. You're on a weight loss journey. I think that's fucking awesome. And if anyone tells you, oh, why do you want to lose weight? Why? There are stages, and I wrote about this, and you could probably attest, there are stages of when you start losing weight and start to look good, right? There's the first stage where you tell everyone, and they're like, what for? You look great. And they're like, what do you want to be thin for? What does that matter? And then there's stage 2, where it's like your friends, people start to get a little angry at you. And you start to divide who you tell your weight loss journey to, or your workout journey, or your hair loss journey. Any of these journeys, we'll just categorize them. Well, why do you want to lose weight? Why do you want to get your hair back? What does that matter? Just be who you are.
Right.
It's not for them, it's for you. And then stage 3 is where you start the divide, where you go to the gym and show up, people are like, oh man, you look like you cut some weight.
Yeah.
Damn, looking good. And then you get confident, or man, it looks like, did you get a hair transplant? That looks great. So you start to make this divide where here are the people that you don't want to tell your journey to, and here are the people that are going to keep motivating you.
Yeah.
And whether you're doing it for yourself, whether you're doing it because you want to look better for other people, for the opposite sex, that's totally valid. And then you get to stage 4, and that's when you really move the needle, where you've lost a lot of weight, be it 70 pounds, 50 pounds, and you start to look good. You start to feel better. You start to walk better, talk better. You get a better job or something, or just things change in your life. And the people that were doubting you or telling you not to do that really go against you. They're like, this is dumb. I don't know why you're doing this. I don't know why you want to get thin. Meanwhile, from my health, being a doctor of physical therapy, everybody getting thin and lean is the best thing you can do. It'll change your life in all aspects. Just getting leaner is the healthiest thing you can do. Yeah. So then even hair loss, now you get a new hair transplant, you're at stage 4, and everything starts to get better. You look better. Your dating life gets better. And as we go through these stages, there are 2 types of friends that you have, right? The friends that support you and are just like, you look great, man. Keep going. And the friends who you start to lose because they are still up here at stage 1 in denial and not accepting of change. And change is the hardest thing. And it's great to go through these steps. When I was losing my hair, had hair, I still have more to go. Blake and I, Dr. Bloxham, I'll record all of my next hair transplant and everything. But going through these steps and acceptance of, I'm going to look like shit for this time period. I'm still a little bit overweight. I'm not where I'm at, but I'm on this journey. Yeah. And each time I get through a certain level, I feel better. I look better. Your friends that you thought you had, you might lose. The friends that you gain along the way, or the people, the relationships, can be uplifting and just keep moving you forward. And that's kind of what hair loss is. This is kind of what we're talking about is there's people who will tell you just shave it. And then there are the people like, oh yeah, my buddy had a hair transplant here, do this. And they're all for it. And that's the community for hair loss in particular that all men should strive to go for. And I'll say this, looking at the camera, before you make that snide comment on Main and Steel, on any of my influencers, be very careful, because unbeknownst to these people who are just spouting off misinformation or just making a snide comment, you have 2 choices. You can be positive or you can be negative. And it says a lot about the person coming into the comments and making negative anecdotal comments about your dick's going to fall off, or you already look dumb, or you have gynecomastia. You have 2 choices. And it says a lot about the person who takes the negative aspect. And it says a lot more about the person who comes in and reaches out and says, hey, I'm curious about this, and who's seeking information or saying, bro, you look great. Those are the 2 types of things you and I were seeing a lot last night in the comments, right?
It's so crazy. The people, they'll tell Luke that he looks feminine. It's like, here's a guy who's got like a jawline, cheekbones, like a full head of hair. he's 28, he looks 22, like he looks phenomenal. He looks like a male model. But then they'll find something to pick at it with his appearance because they don't agree with what he did to actually fix his problem. They want to stay in this like delusional set of beliefs where there's this big pharma conspiracy and they're trying to chemically castrate people.
They're insecure about themselves.
And they want to believe these like carnivore gurus and these guys with their shirts off in the grocery store that are shouting about it's chemicals and
seed oils.
Yeah, everything's just chemicals and all these companies are conspiring to kill us and to make us sick and unhealthy. And we can't trust pharmaceuticals and science because there's chemicals and those are inherently bad. We have such a strong anti-intellectual bent in society right now.
Yeah. What are some mistakes you have made? And I think you talked a lot about them, is misinformation from people who are your friends. I know the intention is good behind bodybuilders saying DHT is the thing and all you need. They have a good intention. And I think we need to say, regardless of if you're into calisthenics, just working out, gymnastics, bodybuilding, weight loss, everyone's intentions are obviously good, but everyone's information or education is not the same. So what would you say to young guys in particular for you writing these books? What's the first thing you would tell someone who says, I think I'm losing my hair. What should I do?
It's such a great question. And I wish I could say, go see a dermatologist, but I've seen dermatologists. One lady told me that finasteride would lower my testosterone.
Yeah, I say don't see dermatologists. There are some great dermatologists who understand hair, but dermatologists are not for hair. A dermatologist's job is to differentially diagnose skin problems. Yes, some are targeted towards hair loss, and those ones who are doing that are telling you to get on finasteride or dutasteride. We have this thing in the realm of medical hair loss companies that are like, prescribed by a dermatologist. That doesn't mean jack shit, okay? If you're losing your hair, speak to a hair loss surgeon who has a lot of education, not just on the surgical techniques, but someone who understands surgical plus medication. They're going to be more apt to understand the medication and be truthful about it versus, remember, dermatologists, a lot of them are really great at diagnosis of skin cancers and other diseases, but some of them just don't understand hair loss medication. And I think what you said is a dermatologist or any doctor, and this is not to badmouth them, might just give you the wrong information.
Yeah, it's hit or miss. And that one wrong piece of information could lead you on a spiral to get into the web of these misinformation influencers that are pushing their products, you know? Your question is, what advice would I give to like my younger self or a younger guy? Consider the fact that we only have 2 or 3 FDA-approved treatments for hair loss. And that everything else, there is a financial incentive for companies that want to badmouth those products. They want to inflate the reported numbers of side effects, the fear of side effects, the anxiety of side effects, and they want to recruit you into an ideology of thinking that pharmaceuticals are bad. And on the back end, they want to monetize that fear and anxiety that you have and sell you shampoos, serums, microneedling, red light helmets, $50 a month school server, supplements that have nothing to do with hair loss at all. They want to tell you to put egg yolk in your hair, to put an onion smoothie. That's the biggest video on hair loss, by the way. Dr. Eric Berg, 3.5 million views last year.
Chiropractor. He's not a doctor. He's a chiropractor.
Yeah. And he's also a Scientologist. He says that you should make an onion smoothie and put it on your scalp 3 times a week. And that is the cure for 6 weeks, because hair loss is only a thing that lasts for 6 weeks, right? So I think that's
so
why
funny to hear that.
That's why I wrote the book, right? Because again, I ordered the keeps in 2020, but I didn't have the instruction manual. I didn't have the education. So I tried to create a field guide to understand these different factions. And that's why I use the cartoons and stuff you see on my sales page, where it's like, if you make it funny and interesting, then maybe the younger generation will understand it. Memes are not just memes. They're like archetypal representations of psychological states, right? So you have the DHT maxers, the buff guys with the bald head. They're like, well, only muscles matter, hair doesn't matter. Maybe for you that works, or for Jason Statham or The Rock, but for me, I don't want to be bald. I've struggled with my weight all my life. I don't want to be fat and bald, right? So I wasn't willing to accept hormonal death of my follicles just because I wanted to optimize my testosterone levels or whatever. Then you've got the PFS doomers, right? They want to recruit you into the ideology of victim mentality, of fear, of scarcity, of loss, of thinking that taking these medications will permanently damage you. But we know from the science that, finasteride has like a 24-hour half-life. So it's in and out of your system very quickly. It takes a few days to get into your blood. Now, dutasteride, which I know you're big on, is a longer...
5 to 6 weeks. Yep.
Yeah. And it takes a while to build up in stable blood levels, and then it has a longer half-life. So it takes longer to get in and out. But that's why in the book, I recommend that guys start with just a 1/4 milligram of finasteride. Try a microdose, Or if you're scared of taking a microdose, take a topical. You have to do something. Because if I could go back and talk to my younger self at 28, I would have just said, you have to start on something, you have to adhere to it, and it has to be the rest of your life. You hear guys talk about, minoxidil, I heard it grows fake hair. If you stop using it, it all falls out. And it's like, well, yeah. If I stop going to the gym, taking vitamin D and creatine and whey protein, do I keep all my gains or do I gain the weight back and lose my muscle?
You brought up a really good point there. Guys will say, well, what, I have to take that pill the rest of my life? And I'm like, yeah, do you like steak? Some evidence shows that it can raise your cholesterol. I mean, I eat steak every week. Yeah. But does that mean I'm going to stop? It's the most simplest thing. You take a pill. Yes. I'm on 1.5 milligrams of dutasteride, so I pop 3 in my mouth a day. But I say, think of it like a vitamin. I don't take a vitamin, but you don't even have to think about it. Morning, gone, done. Yeah. You eat every day. You're not going to stop being like, oh man, eating's a hassle. How am I going to take a hair loss pill the excuses? But I think a lot of that has a fear in the back of the head there as well.
You asked such a good question. And it's so difficult to answer because it's like, again, you go to the dermatologist, they tell you the wrong thing. You go to the bodybuilding community, they tell you just shave it. I went to a TRT clinic. I saw a doctor. I had my blood work checked. Right? My test was low. Again, like I said, my insulin was off the charts. Mm-hmm. I was almost pre-diabetic. I'm now in much better shape, like normal levels on the A1C, on everything else. Insulin is lagging behind because it's usually a lagging indicator, but I've lost 70 pounds. I'm halfway through my fitness journey. I want to lose another 60, 70 pounds. But the doctor told me to just shave my head. And it's so crazy. That same doctor, he's now left that company. He posts, I'm shaving my head in solidarity with my clients, right? So he goes and shaves his head because he tells all of his clients to shave his head. This is the policy at this big blood work clinic, that very famous influencer that we all know, right? 6 months later, he goes to Turkey to get a hair transplant. And so I talk about this in the book. I call him Dr. Handsome. And he's a nice guy. He's super intelligent. He drinks raw milk and he's a doctor and stuff. So he's kind of straddling those two fields of the primal ancestral bro and the pharmacology, right? But I just don't understand how you reconcile those two worldviews. It's like you either accept the DHT is killing your follicles and that it's really important that you shave your head, or you do something about it, you take finasteride, and then you get a hair transplant. Of course, he may or may not know that the grafts or the hair behind the transplanted grafts, that's still going to be affected by baldness, right? Dr. Handsome will be bald whether he likes it or not.
Guys forget that. I say that to my friends all the time who got a hair transplant. I'm like, the rest of your hair is going to fall out if you're not on medication.
The more that you look into this stuff, you would think it would elucidate itself. It becomes more confusing. The rabbit hole just grows ever deeper. You look for a solution to your problem. And, I've had people tell me oh, your book is $27. But it just says take finasteride and minoxidil. Why do I need that? Why can't I? Well, I'm just why are there 50 million guys going bald? Because when they open up this rabbit hole and they start seeking out this information, they get more confusion and they get less clarity. So I tried to structure the guide in such a way where it was chapter 1 and 2 is my story. It talks about Dr. Handsome, kind of my wake-up call, how I started researching this thing. Chapter 3 and 4 is about the different factions of hair loss grifters. And I was talking about how the top 2 factions, they're the recruiters, right? And then on the bottom, on the left side, you have the snake oil salesman. And on the right, you have the tech bros, right? And left side is more alpha, right side is more beta or go with the flow, intellectual. They're intellectual appeals. Left side is more about confidence and charisma and muscle and stuff like that, right? And so I talk about how that's a symbiotic ecosystem. And then the final stop is a hair transplant, right? And where do guys go for hair transplants? Well, they go to Turkey, right? And then I learned this from John Bravo. Do you know that guy? The fitness influencer?
He's great. I love Johnny Bravo. I love his channel.
So he
piece of shit.
He's cool.
Shout out to Johnny Bravo.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. And, he's been on finasteride for 27 years.
It was 2 years ago, I saw his post and I wanted to I'm a nobody. Hopefully I'll be somebody bigger in this space. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to reach out and say, hey, thanks for posting this. I found it on YouTube and he was like, I was losing my hair. So I got on. I love it. His channel's so great. It's so fun. But his honesty in that post, which everyone can find it. Just type in John Bravo, hair loss. He's very honest and his hair looks incredible. Oh my, I would say he's in the top 5 YouTuber guys, not in any circle of hair loss, just YouTuber guys. Johnny Bravo, shout out. Your hair is incredible. Oh my, what I wouldn't do to have his hair. He looks great. And I'm glad to see that he posted that video. And it's hard. I mean, I'm just trying to not lose any more hair. And my biggest mistake was, and I don't talk about this a lot, and everyone's seen my photos, and I'll post all my photos and stuff, is my hair loss journey was at 18 years old. I lost my crown. If you're losing your crown, and I'll say this to all the guys, if you are losing your crown by the time you're 18 or 20, you're going to be bald by 30. I hate to say that. This is just the truth. This is how hair loss works. Anyone tells you anything different, they're full of shit. Okay. If your crown starts to go, that means you have pretty severe, not always, but for the most part, a large percent of the guys who start with crown loss, the receding hairline is going to start, and you'll probably be bald. And it runs in my family. My grandfather, my mom's brother, uncle, all Italians. They got the Italian gene that loses hair versus my cousin Joey and his kids, incredible hairlines. My cousin Joey looks like Joey fucking Cruz. He's an orthopedic surgeon with slick back hair. Shout out to my cousin Joey. His kids all have great head of hair. My side of the family, my mom's side, we all lost hair, started losing our hair, and I was losing my hair, but I started losing it in like high school. And people would say, oh, you're back your head, you look better with a hat. And I was like, I didn't realize it. And I don't say this much, but it was in 2000, dating myself here, 2001, I was in Catholic University of America in my dorm, and I was just shedding like crazy. And I remember my dad is a surgeon. My dad's a general surgeon, breast cancer surgeon, general surgery. So I was so nervous, and everyone started telling me, you're losing your hair. And I didn't know what to do. I had no clue. So I called my dad. I'm like, Dad, what do I do? And he's like, next time you come home, let's take you to a hair transplant surgeon. And I went to Pittsburgh, and I don't even remember. It's the place where Greg Brady, the actor, got his hair transplant. I don't know if these guys are still in existence, but shout out to them. What did they start me on? Finasteride. And I thank them for putting me on that journey back in 2001. So those guys got me on finasteride, Propecia at the time. Dutasteride was just coming about at this time period, which I'll tell why I switched over. I didn't switch over to dutasteride until probably like after my second hair transplant, because I didn't know anything about it. But I will say for me, finasteride helped stop some. I initially in the first 2 years saw some growth back in my crown. And I'll educate you more about dutasteride and how it helps, because it blocks type 1 and type 2. Finasteride blocks type 2 fibers, which are directly at the hair follicle. Okay. Dutasteride blocks type 1 and type 2. Now, the type 1 follicle is at the skin and the sebum level. So that's why it's a more comprehensive way of blocking all of DHT around the hair follicle and at the hair follicle, which is why we see most men respond better in all the research. And this is why my company only offers dutasteride. And you will see this, even Keeps, they're starting to do it. Every other player in the game, this is my prediction, will only offer dutasteride in the next 2 to 5 years. Finasteride pharmacokinetics, pharmacology might work for benign prostate hyperplasia, but for hair loss, it's going to be going by the wayside. That's my investment thesis. That's why I don't know if I'm the first and only company. I hope that I am, but I hope that other companies, I don't care about competition, please offer dutasteride only, because it is a more effective medication. There are some other companies that are misguiding. I will say this, do not put finasteride and dutasteride in a pill. That doesn't make any sense. There is a competitor who I know, they're putting dutasteride in with finasteride. There's no pharmacological sense to do that. Low dose dutasteride doesn't make sense to mix with finasteride. Dutasteride has a 60% bioavailability at 0.5 milligrams at its max dose. So that's why I offer higher doses. So the reason we see better gains with dutasteride is specifically for its comprehensive way of blocking type 1 and type 2 hair follicles. In addition to that, there's not a lot of research on this, but we can see this through the research. Dutasteride is an incredible medication, not just for hair. For skin also, dutasteride can help with sebum reduction. And Kyle, KWRX, even talks about this. He even says, he goes deep on the research. So I thank him for that. Even Kevin does too, I think, about the new standard of practice for men who are suffering from cystic acne stuff could be dutasteride, because really it's blocking those sebum follicles from sebaceous seborrheic dermatitis and stuff. That's how incredible this medication is. For the people who hate, big pharma, are you kidding me? Like, you have a medication, which is, I don't want to say it is the cure for hair loss, but if you start early enough, your hair is going to be great. And it is a compounding effect. Dutasteride is so effective, the compounding effect over years, and guys will say this, and I say this in one of my ads that I made a couple years ago, is guys will tell you that they're like, my hair feels thicker. I might need a hair transplant still, but the rest of my hair feels thicker and stronger. And there's another young guy, Brayton, who's also younger guy who talks about this. I forget his last name. I've reached out to him. I hope he sees this. Brayton is on 2.5 milligrams. He talks about how when he shifted over to dutasteride, his hair got thicker. It feels better. So many men will tell you that their hair it feels thicker, it looks thicker because the environment around that hair follicle, not just the hair follicle, the skin, the sebaceous glands, you're blocking DHT so comprehensively that it allows for the nutrients. And what I mean by nutrients is your daily diet, eating food allows for the nutrients that you eat to get to the hair follicle to help it grow better. Okay. So most people don't understand. That's why I try to educate a lot of guys on shifting from finasteride to dutasteride, in particular, younger men who are suffering from hair loss. There is a great possibility that you will be bald, maybe even faster. I've seen guys who are bald at like 24, which is why I say start with dutasteride. I am fully invested in it, as that's what my company does. It is a more effective, more comprehensive medication for hair loss, and all of the research shows that. I have seen some doctors, and it pains me to say this, hair transplant surgeons who will say, I don't like to do it because it has a higher side effect profile. It does not. And I'm creating some stuff right now, an article about the side effects here's how I say the side effects for hair loss medications. You know the Where's Waldo books? Open one of those up. Find Waldo. Yeah. That's how minuscule side effects are for finasteride and dutasteride. Go outside, look at grass. I want you to take a yardstick, make a square of the yardstick. There's a 4-leaf clover in there. That's the side effect. That's the metaphors I try to give guys. Go to a football stadium. I went to University of Florida. I went to University of North Florida. Went to Western University. Any of those universities. Let's do the whiteout. You know how they do the whiteout. Everyone wears a white shirt against the teams. And then put 5 blue shirts in there somewhere. Find the blue shirts in that stadium. Those are the side effects. That's how minuscule these side effects are compared to other medications. And testosterone in particular has a very high side effect profile. If you dose it inappropriately, I won't say you could die, but your hematocrit can go up. You could have a stroke. You could have a heart attack. So there are other medications that are very effective. Testosterone is a very effective medication, but it has very severe side effects. GLP-1 medications, they're very effective, but they also have very severe side effects. So we're not saying there's no side effects. We're saying they're so minuscule. And these medications are so incredible at what they physically do for your body. If there are 2 medications that make you feel different and look different, number 1 is dutasteride, and I'll throw finasteride in there, and testosterone. These are medications that are so incredible for us men, and we tend to downplay how incredible science is, right? And instead we'll say, oh, PFS, which is not recognized in the medical field as an actual diagnosis. And PFS is post-finasteride syndrome for those who aren't. So I'm sure you would agree with me on this, is like there's so much cool shit that we are influenced away from, if that's the term. I don't even know how to say it. You know what I mean? Like we're like fear-mongered, and I talk to my friends at the gym. I'm going to see my friends in T-minus like an hour, and I have friends who are losing their hair. I'm like, dude, you're losing your hair. And they're like, oh, whatever, I'll just shave it. I'm like, why? And another thing I was thinking about is we keep our hair, we look good. What's the ultimate goal here? Is we all want to have a wife, kids, whatever, the opposite sex. And I'll give a shout out to Greg O'Gallagher, Kino Body, and everyone rips on him, but I chat with Craig every once in a while on Instagram. Like, he has stuck to his philosophy on getting lean, getting cut, reduce your calories. And the big shout out get him, Greg doesn't ever say you have to protein max. He just says, just get lean and you'll look better. He doesn't care what you eat. And I'll also give a shout out to Brady. I think Brady Irvin, Donut Body. Go follow these guys, buy their programs, support your local business, or support the influencers that you're following. I'll buy into there. I support some musicians on YouTube. Support the people that you follow. Support everyone. Support Tim. Support me. Show them your support by buying their programs. If it's just $27 and you get it and then you never use it again, who cares? Show your support. But Greg always sticks to his guns. He's get lean, look good. Majority of women don't want you to be jacked like a bodybuilder. Some women do, and that's okay. But my philosophy is just get lean and have a great head of hair. If that is your one goal, I don't care what you eat. If you can figure out a way to eat whatever you want, I have dessert every night because, you know, following Brady, Donut Body, he has a donut every day and he's a supermodel. He looks great.
What's your dessert of choice? Do you like?
Whatever my girlfriend is cooking. So recently we've had a batch of chocolate chip cookies. Thank you, Casey. So I'll have like 1 cookie, 2 cookies at night. But typically, sometimes I'll do a donut, and I'll, like what Brady does, I'll find a donut at a local Chopin bakery, shout out. They're here in
a regular donut, not a protein donut.
I'm anti that. And Greg does this too. Greg he'll eat a whole thing of chocolate. He'll have a whole chocolate bar because you know why? That's within his calorie range. He's not worried about protein maxing, protein chocolate. God, don't make a protein cookie for me. I don't want a sand cookie. Have you ever done it? It tastes like sand. It's like, just, you know what? Let me stick to my caloric deficit and then have the cheesecake. Yeah. And you can do that. People don't realize that. And Brady talks about this. Again, shout out to Brady. He talks about his issues with not body dysmorphia, but like being so focused on the perfect diet or calorie deficit instead of the 80-20 rule, Pareto's principle, which is 80% of your diet should be really honed in. And the other 20% should just be enjoy your life. Have the cookie. Eat the cookie. And my girlfriend, who is a dietitian, will say, well, there is some nuance to that. And she's absolutely right. Not everyone can do that at the stage at which they're at for hair loss, for weight loss. But I think less is more in everything. And this has kind of been my biggest philosophy on life is less really is more. I work out 3 days a week. That's it. Strength train 3 days a week, sometimes 2. Greg O'Gallagher follows that sometimes too. What's his name in Thailand? Sean follows this philosophy. He does 2 days a week. And a lot of these guys will show you that less really is more. I used to work out 6 days a week, 5 days, and I'm like, I hated my life. All I thought about was the gym. Now, I would say my ability to reduce things in life that weren't turning the needle, working out 4 or 5 days a week wasn't turning the needle on my body. It has allowed me to do things like this. What time is it? It's 2:40 on a Wednesday afternoon in Newport Beach, and I'm not working for someone else. I work for myself. I'm going to the gym later, but I can have a great conversation with you and not worry about my diet, my exercise, because I've already figured out what works for me and how to have less stress in those aspects of life and enjoy life more by chatting with you last night by some random circumstance of a comment online. This is, I'm not super religious, but I believe in the Jedi forces. This is the force of nature of bringing people together. And if I were doing things to an extreme, like I used to in life, I wouldn't be able to do this. I wouldn't be able to have conversations, start a business. I'm not a multimillionaire. I'll tell you, my business does not make millions of dollars like Hims and Keeps. But I am happy every day I wake up knowing that, you know what? If I miss my workout today, guess what? I've got tomorrow because I only have to get 3 days a week. If I overeat today because Casey makes a big batch of cookies and I have like 5 of them, or she makes something, it's okay because I know tomorrow still exists and that I can get back on track. And I'm not going to extremes where I'm going to say, you know what, for the next 10 days, I'm not going to eat any sugar. I don't look at life like that. I look at life like, there's going to be hurdles in the road and it's a matter of how you get up when you fall and how you keep going forward, whether it be hair loss, weight loss, a combination of those things, hormone replacement, where you're going and what you're doing, what works for you, stick with it, take advice, learn from it, take bad advice, learn from that, and keep moving forward. And I think that's kind of a philosophy with hair loss. So less is more, especially in hair loss.
What I discovered is there's just a few little things that will keep you on track. And the most important thing is adherence, right?
Yes.
The reason that I failed back in 2020 with keeps and stuff is, one, because I didn't adhere to the medication, but 2, there's like an underlying lack of urgency and there was a lack of education, right? I didn't understand the science. I didn't understand what DHT was. So the finasteride bottles just kind of like accumulated dust in my drawer, right? I was still applying minoxidil. I was using the ketoconazole way too much, which was drying out my hair. And so it's like they will ship you the medication, but they don't really provide any education. And that's why I was reading your guide last night. It's super comprehensive. It gives you all the steps, everything that you need to understand to sort of take action and be confident in your decision. And, I just implemented a couple things. Like one is, I've got this on is the supplement organizer, right? So all the supplements go in there. I'm taking finasteride. I'm also taking Accutane. I started that 2 months ago, and that's been phenomenal. I've had skin issues on and off for my whole life. It started getting worse as I started taking testosterone, and it got to the point where I was like having these big pimples on my head, and I was
That's DHT. That's DHT.
Yeah. I was already taking finasteride and it wasn't clearing up. And then so I went and I got a telederm, Ryan Trowbridge, shout out to him. He's a great guy, super well-educated, Harvard trained. We just, text back and forth. I send him photos and stuff and he manages my medication. And that way it's great. I don't have to go see a dermatologist every month in person. I just, he sends the meds. We do the iPledge thing. But this is like one of the things that helps me stay on track. And then also the other thing that has really helped is a comb applicator for the minoxidil. Because
Okay.
as we were talking about, the topicals are a pain in the ass to apply. You put them in
Yeah.
and it drips down your forehead, right? So when you have the comb applicator, it just evenly distributes it throughout the scalp. And so those two things, like this and that, have increased my adherence from not taking the medication, not using the topical, to like 99% adherence.
You brought up something really important there, organization. Organizing your life changes your life so much. Like just little things, a notepad a day, writing out your things that you have to do, and then carrying it with you in your pocket, which I have my notepads right up there. Just writing things down. Spending money on things that organize your life is better than spending money on things that you might just use once or twice a week, right? So like a simple pill bottle leads to so much more adherence. Putting your hair loss medication next to your coffee mug in the morning, which is what I do, so don't forget to take it, changes your life. Organizing your life. Spend money, guys. Do this. Spend money on organization. Spend money on things that organize your life. It's such a great investment. Casey just finished organizing the garage again with all these cartons that are like $24 at Costco, but they're incredible for space saving. And it makes the garage look so much nicer. I can fit the car in there so much nicer. So little spends on things that organize your life or educate you. A simple hair loss guide that might change the way you see hair loss. Right? Spending $27 on something that you read for 1 hour will change the way you see. And we get that so much when you read a book or you listen to an Audible book. Sometimes I will finish a book and I'll be like, man, that book fucking sucked. But I got 2 sentences that this guy said in chapter 7 that stuck with me. And if that's all you get from an audiobook or from a book, or something on Amazon that you get that organizes your life to give you 20 minutes of solitude or something better, then invest in that. And hair loss med and hair loss is adherence and it's habits. And guys who have really good habits and time management, the successful men, and I post this, you said take action. Go look at my post, everyone. Hit the take action post. I have the Brad Pitt F1 movie playing, but it's about taking action, and guys who take action are all the same. The most successful men, and I've said this, the most successful men. I have lived in LA and treated billionaires and multimedia moguls and very famous actors. I cannot say any of this because of HIPAA, but I have treated very, very famous people. I have treated billionaires here in Newport Beach, millionaires, all sorts of people. Some are very nice, some are very mean, but there is one thing that they all do in common, and they all take action. They learn from their mistakes, whether they're good or bad. They don't try to perfect things. They just keep moving forward. They just take action. Whether it's getting a hair transplant, starting medication, they take action. And if the simplest thing to do is go buy your ebook and spend the weekend reading it, then just do it. Just do it. It's $27. That's less than 2 drinks at any bar in California. We know that's I think Casey spent $18 on 1 drink this past weekend. So invest in the things that are going to move the needle for you. Even if it's $27 or if it's $90 for 3 months of hair loss medication with Mean and Steel, then do that. If that's going to help you to take 1 pill a freaking day, then do it. So that's my philosophy. And I'll let you know, I'm going to let you close this out. Give me your philosophy in 2026 for your weight loss, for your hair loss, and just living your life day to day.
You know, in the past, I think I failed at stuff because I made these grand plans, right? And I didn't execute on them, or I wanted to lose 100 pounds, right? So far, I've lost 70. I want to lose another 60. So let's call it 110 or 120. I want to get down to like 225. I'm at around 270 right now. And I never realized how much dedication it would take and how long it would take. It always takes longer than you think, you know? Like for me, if I'm dieting and if I'm going to the gym consistently, and if everything's perfect, I'll lose 1 pound a week. So that means it'll take another year of perfect consistency to lose 50 pounds. But that is so much better than spending years like trying to crash diet or trying to go super fast and then just hitting a wall with it. And it's like the same thing with hair loss, you know, like in the last 6 months, I went from basically headed to a Norwood 4 to I'm back at a Norwood 3. And I can show you some pictures and results and stuff. It's very subtle, but it happens slowly and surely over time. And I'm sure like we could check it back a year from now. Hopefully I've lost some more weight. Certainly, you know, my hair will be a lot thicker. And then maybe at that point I'll be ready for a transplant. So it's like with anything in life, you make a plan, and I like to take things slow. Slow and steady wins the race. With weight loss, it's a long game. Hair loss, it's a long game. You don't have to rush into it. You don't have to go fly to Turkey to get a hair transplant. You're probably not going to get the outcome that you want. So take the time, do the research, get the education, make a plan, start taking action on it slowly but surely, one day at a time. The results come slow, but they compound over time. And then all of a sudden, 1, 2, 3 years goes by. And you'll either look back on the time and you'll say, wow, I'm so glad that I started taking hair loss medication. I started getting this under control and I started, managing my life better. Or you'll say, wow, man, like I wish I would have started now. I'm almost totally bald and I need a hair transplant, right? So that's what I would say to a younger guy is just don't be in such a hurry to be a millionaire, to be jacked, to be super handsome, looks maxer with a full head of hair. Just kind of take it one day at a time.
I think that's a really good philosophy for life, for daily habits. And, hindsight is 2020, right? So with that, Tim, this was awesome. Like how quickly we've come to know each other and stuff. So for those who don't know, where can we find you on social media? Go ahead, give a couple shout outs for the titles of your books that you have. Tell people where they can find you, and I'll put that in the comments section as well.
At lazyking.labs on Instagram, lazykinglabs.com for my hair loss guide. It's $27, and you can take the free transplant assessment. You can find the link in my bio, but go.lazykinglabs.com/quiz.
Awesome. Tim, this was freaking awesome. Thanks so much for joining me today in such a short notice as I jump right into the apartment and then you're here and everything kind of turned out the way we wanted it to. So for everyone who's watching, there'll be a lot more from Tim. He's definitely be joining us with Made in Steel as an affiliate. So be on the lookout for more information, education, and everything from Tim. So thanks, man. This was awesome. Appreciate it.
I had a great time. Thanks for having me, Chris.
This podcast was produced by Pod Punch Studios. Stay tuned for more episodes of the Made in Steel podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you're listening. Until then, keep moving forward.